Calls for action have grown in recent months in the wake of several deadly confrontations with police. And right now, you may be surprised to learn there's no single clearinghouse for records of police-involved incidents. One member of Congress wants to change that in hopes reporting more data can help reduce the number of these deadly confrontations. I want to bring in Representative Stephen Cohen. He's a Democrat from Tennessee. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Explain to us here, because I think people will be surprised, what records do not exist at this point when it comes to police-involved incidents?
Right now, there's no requirement of reportage of shootings or killings by police using deadly force. Now, on the last day of this Congress, there was a bill by Bobby Scott that got through, which was commendable, that will require reporting and some details, including the use of deadly force by an officer, but and reportage of who the victims are. My bill would include the victim and the officer being allowed to say in a record kept of why he used deadly force, what non-lethal forms of force he tried to use, and a better explanation of what went on. This needs to be known to have a clear record of where and when deadly force is used, and if it's being used excessively, and if it's being used disproportionately racially in this country.
And as an attorney, you worked as an attorney for years that dealt with police forces. How would this single federal clearinghouse of information like this, how would it help, perhaps, reduce these confrontations?
Well, I think it puts the focus on the issue, which needs to happen from an objective perspective. Right now, there has been focus because the Brown killing and the Garner killing, and particularly the Cleveland killing, which I just can't see any justification for at all. If there's a national study and highlights brought to these incidents, maybe people will see whether or not there is institutional racism in some of the killings and shootings, and if there needs to be better training, selection of officers, and training in the use of deadly force. Police have a tough job. I was a police attorney for 3.5 years, and I know how difficult it is, and they put their lives on the line, and all of our hearts go out to the families of the 2 victims here in New York. That was just insane, and I came to tears on that. But nevertheless, you still need to root out bad apples, and this will help us see if there are bad apples out there, and if there is more shootings of African Americans by Caucasians, which is what appears to be the case.
It'll give you a geographic look, it'll give you a demographic look, it will really focus in on how to improve the issue. Is there a single federal clearinghouse records kept on cops who were shot?
Not right now, no.
So that would be something also on the entire flip side that might be useful in terms of studying these types of things. Along that subject, and again, your experience as an attorney who worked with police, I want to talk about what happened here in New York City over the weekend, the wake and funeral for one of the officers shot here so tragically 1 week ago. When the mayor, Bill de Blasio, was speaking, a number of officers turned their backs on him at this service because of his support, I think, for protesters on the streets here in the wake of the grand jury decision on Eric Garner. You can see the video right there of them turning their backs. Let me play some sound from you, from Police Commissioner Bill Bratton, on what he thought of this action by certain police.
He is the mayor of New York. He was there representing the citizens of New York to express their remorse and their regret at that death, and it was inappropriate.
He says inappropriate. What were your feelings when you saw that?
I think it's inappropriate too, because they work for the mayor. They should have a certain respect for the system. Sure, it's a protest, and protests are effective in changing society, and that was a protest. Still, it's their boss, and the police are supposed to follow certain protocols, and they are part of the city of New York's governmental structure. They should not, I think, have done that. But I understand their concerns. Mayor de Blasio expressed some proper frustrations. His son is half African American. Could face the same prospects of some type of a racial profiling. I believe racial profiling exists, but we need to do the study at the same time. And I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did the best job of writing about why this is necessary. You root out bad priests who are due to predatory practices on children. That doesn't mean you're against Catholicism and priests. You root out bad teachers. It doesn't mean you're against education. The Kareem Abdul-Jabbar piece is the best I've written, and if you root out bad cops, it doesn't mean you're anti-cop.
No,
I'm pro-cop.
So how do you do that then without creating so much tension, which obviously exists among the, I say vast majority, it's beyond vast majority, almost all of the police around the country who really just want to keep the streets safe?
Well, it has to be fine-tuned, and our records will give us a perspective and an opportunity to see if the facts justify it, and if the facts do justify it, and if departments aren't choosing the right. In Cleveland, they didn't even go back to look at this guy's background. He was released by some small-town Andy Mayberry-type force, and they hired him in Cleveland. That's shocking. The civil case should be interesting. The police need to do a better job of who they hire and how they train people.
Congressman Cohen, great to have you here with us.
Good to be on New Day, and Happy New Year's to New Day.
Happy early New Year to you as well, but
Thank
start
you.
celebrating right now. Why not? Michaela?
All right, back to our top